Get ready, because we are diving deep into the world of owls today. And let me tell you, the sources you found are packed with incredible stuff. It's not just about their looks, those big eyes, silent flying. We're uncovering surprising behaviors. They're totally wild adaptations. And even, get this, a mysterious connection to ancient civilizations. Like, get ready for some serious aha moments, right?
Oh, I'm ready to unpack all of these owl secrets.
So picture this, an owl that can basically shapeshift to look just like a stick. Or how about one that can hear the movement of atoms? Yeah, you heard me right. And then think about how those crazy adaptations might have influenced ancient cultures. It's all connected, so buckle up.
It really is amazing. I mean, how much we can actually learn from these creatures, even about ourselves.
Exactly. And speaking of learning, got to start with this story about a white-faced owl. Total changed how I see how smart these birds are,
Yeah.
It's like straight out of one of those nature documentaries.
Right.
Okay, so picture this. This owl is hanging out with some smaller owls, right? To intimidate them, it puffs itself up looking all big and tough, like, don't even try me. But then a way bigger eagle owl shows up on the scene.
Oh, yeah. Classic power shift moment in the animal kingdom.
Right. And this white-faced owl knew exactly what to do. It's like, forget trying to fight that. It just shrunk itself down, tucked its feathers in, stretched out long and thin. I mean, it practically vanished, looking just like a branch.
Wow. That's not just camouflage. It's like this deep understanding of social situations, knowing what's risky. This owl, it sized up that situation instantly and picked the best way to survive.
It's like it knew the assignment, right? Adapt or become dinner.
It really makes you wonder, how much are we underestimating the intelligence of animals in general?
Now that is a question.
Yeah.
And, this whole adaptability thing, it goes beyond just behavior. Think about how an owl looks. We see those round feathers and we think, that's it. But their legs, they're surprisingly long, just hidden under all that fluff.
That reminds me of that story, I think it was in those sources, about those people in India who freaked out because they found those aliens in their ceiling. Remember that?
Okay.
And it turned out to be
Baby eagle owls? Oh, yeah. With those long legs and big old heads, they could definitely look a little freaky, especially in the dark. Shadows and all.
See? The truth is stranger than fiction, I swear. Really goes to show you, what we see and hear isn't always the whole story, right? Exactly. Got to stay curious, question everything,
100%. And speaking of questioning things, let's debunk this whole owls sleep with one eye open myth, shall we?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. It's a classic misconception. Owls, just like almost all birds, they close both eyes when they sleep. Soundly.
Oh, man. So no staring contest with a sleeping owl, then. That's kind of a bummer.
But the way they sleep, especially baby owls, now that's fascinating. Picture this. A tiny ball of fluff, head way too big for its body. Just holding that head up all day must be exhausting, so when they sleep...
Nap time gets adorable.
Exactly. They just kind of plop their heads down on whatever's around, look like little feathered balls, and when they wake up, it's like their heads slowly rise up as if they're, remembering the world exists again. It's precious.
Okay, now I'm picturing a whole nest of baby owls taking a nap. It's the cutest thing ever. But, all right, got to stay focused. We got owl eyes to cover. And seriously, those eyes are legendary.
They are incredible. Evolution at its finest, totally adapted for life in the dark. So instead of being round like ours, owl eyes are tubular.
Tubular. Owl eyes are tubular. What is that, like some kind of owl slang I don't know about?
Not quite. But it's true, their eyes are tubular. It lets them gather way more light than round eyes, which obviously in the dark is super important. And speaking of their eyes, have you noticed how big they are compared to their heads?
Yeah, it's like their eyes are taking up all the space in there. No room for brains, just giant eyeballs.
Well, that just shows you how crucial good vision is for them as nocturnal predators. But here's the thing. Owls might be amazing at seeing in low light, but they don't see color the way we do. There's a trade-off happening there.
So it's like they're trading color vision for night vision.
Exactly. Think of it this way. Their eyes are all about picking up light and movement, not so much worrying about a bunch of different colors. Their retinas are jam-packed with these things called rod cells, which detect light, instead of cone cells, which are what we use to see color.
Wow, that's a pretty wild trade-off. But I guess it makes sense when your whole life revolves around the darkness. It reminds me of that owl Zeus from the source. Remember him? He had those shimmering, almost starry eyes.
Ah, yes, Zeus. A sad reminder that even the most amazing adaptations can be fragile.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. He had those beautiful eyes, but it turned out he'd gotten injured and lost most of his vision. It makes you realize how delicate the balance of nature is. one injury can completely change an animal's life.
Absolutely. And speaking of incredible adaptations, we can't forget about an owl's neck. With those big, sensitive eyes, they needed a way to see everything around them, which is where that amazing flexibility comes in.
Okay, yeah, that neck rotation. I've always wondered, like, how do they turn their heads practically all the way around without messing up their blood flow? You'd think they'd pass out.
It's a question that puzzled scientists for ages, honestly. But turns out they have this whole system of adaptations. For one, their necks have twice as many vertebrae as ours, which allows for that crazy range of motion.
Double the vertebrae. No wonder they're so flexible.
And there's more. They also have these special blood vessels in their necks that can expand and contract, kind of like reservoirs, to make sure there's always enough blood getting to the brain, even when they're twisting and turning their heads like
That's
crazy.
insane. It's like their bodies are built for those head-spinning moves. Part of me wishes I could try that. Just see everything around me without even moving. Talk about a different perspective.
It would be something. And speaking of different perspectives, we have to talk about their hunting skills. It's this whole combination of incredibly sharp senses and adaptations that make them practically invisible in the dark. Have you ever, really looked at those circles of feathers around their eyes?
I was just going to ask about those. They always look so serious, like they're wearing tiny headphones or something.
Well, funny you should say that. They actually work kind of like that. Those feather discs, they're like little satellite dishes channeling sound waves right into their ears with insane precision.
So they're like walking, talking radar dishes. That's incredible.
Pretty much. And what makes it even more effective is that their ears aren't symmetrical.
Oh, yeah. I remember reading something about that, but I don't really get how it works.
It's a really clever system. Because their ears are asymmetrical, it lets them pinpoint exactly where a sound is coming from in 3D. Sound hits each ear at a slightly different time and at a slightly different volume, which allows the owl to make what I guess you could call a sound map in its brain.
Hold on. So they're using sound to see in the dark. It's like echolocation, but for owls.
That's a good way to put it. And their hearing is so sensitive, some scientists believe they can hear sounds as quiet as atoms moving.
Atoms. Seriously.
Mhm.
That's just like, how is that even possible? That's insane.
Billions of years of evolution for you, and it's not even the end of it. Not only can they hear their prey crazy good, but they can fly without making a sound.
Right? Those feathers.
Yeah,
It's like they have a built-in stealth system, like something out of a movie.
it's true. Their feathers have these unique structures that change the way air flows over their wings, which basically muffles the sound of their flight.
It's like a silencer for their wings. That's so cool. It makes you think, if we could figure out how they do that, imagine the possibilities. Quieter airplanes, maybe? Or how about silent drones?
Exactly. There's this whole field, biomimicry, where people are studying nature's designs to create new technologies. Imagine quieter, more efficient wind turbines inspired by owl feathers, or even submarines that can glide through the water just as silently as an owl through the air. The potential is massive.
We've talked about owl senses. They're totally wild adaptations. But let's get into something I never even considered. Owls and ancient history. I mean, owls and civilizations. How are those two connected?
It's a really interesting relationship and one that's changed a lot over time. You see, for a long time, across all kinds of cultures, owls were these revered creatures. People saw them as gods, protectors, symbols of wisdom and knowledge, all that good stuff. But then, around 3,000 years ago, something changed.
What happened? Did owls get a little too big-headed? Did their PR team quit?
I wouldn't say that. But people's perception of owls definitely shifted. Across the board, in Egypt, Sumeria, even China, owls started being linked to death, bad luck, the underworld. They went from revered to feared almost overnight.
That's a huge change. Any idea what caused it? Like, what were they thinking?
That's the million-dollar question. It's tough to say for sure, but it does seem to coincide with a time of big upheaval for these civilizations. Maybe empires were crumbling, belief systems were changing, and as humans changed, so did our relationship with these creatures of the night. One really interesting piece of evidence we found is from the Chauvet Cave in France.
Chauvet Cave, huh? Now we're talking. That place is like a time machine, straight back to the Stone Age.
It really is incredible. Discovered back in '94, it's got some of the oldest cave paintings we've ever found, like over 30,000 years old.
I've seen pictures. It's amazing. All that art, and from a time when mammoths were just roaming around.
And, amidst all those paintings of animals, handprints, all that, deep inside the cave, there's something else. A carving of an owl.
An owl deep in the cave. That's got to mean something. Was it with the other animal paintings?
That's what's interesting. It's different. It's not part of any bigger scene or anything. It's in this small chamber, kind of separate from everything else, almost like it was important in a different way.
Okay, now I'm really curious. What do archaeologists think it means? Why put an owl there all on its own?
That's the big mystery. We can guess all we want about what people believed back then, but who knows for sure? But finding it way back there, in the dark, in this place full of art, it tells us their relationship with owls was complicated, that's for sure.
It really makes you think, like, was the owl some kind of guardian for this sacred spot? Or maybe a messenger between worlds?
So many possibilities. And you combine that with owls going from good to bad all those thousands of years ago, it really shows how much our view of nature is tied to our own culture, how we see ourselves.
Like owls have been watching us the whole time, seeing all our changes for, what, millennia?
A silent witness, right,
Right.
to empires rising and falling, all that history, and who knows what secrets they hold that we haven't figured out yet.
So from their crazy adaptations, those silent wings, those incredible eyes,
Mhm.
to a cave painting from, what, the dawn of humanity?
Yeah.
Always more to learn about these guys, right?
Absolutely. And if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's that we got to approach nature with a little humility. There's always something new to discover, some connection we miss if we just pay attention.
This whole deep dive has really changed how I see owls.
That's what it's all about, right? Because when you see an owl now, you're not just seeing a bird, you're seeing this creature that has captivated humans for thousands of years, a symbol of wisdom, of mystery, of how connected we are to the wild, even if we forget sometimes.
And on that note, gotta ask, what other owl secrets are out there? What else can they teach us about our past, maybe even our future? Keep those sources coming, folks. We'll keep diving deep.